questions. So, Reverend Harris, just give me the green lights or the red lights as we go along. But we've covered the part of the restorative justice piece.
Right.
That's developing a beloved community. So now let's move forward.
Well, I think, you know, to go into the actual scenario, what took place that day, the police called and went out into to the ears or the cars of the officers that said someone was walking or someone seen someone with a gun. I think we first have to understand that with the Dillon case, that the police is the body who initiated this contact with our brother Dillon. And then from that point is where we need to dissect or have a conversation about what the police did and did, because right now, Dr. Kennedy, I believe we were talking that the chief now is saying, well, this young man is suicidal. They took got a judge to get a warrant to go into his Facebook and pull all this information out. And so, which I thought that was very interesting, because it seemed like now, you know, when you're 9, 10, 11 years old, you're a kid, right? You're going to say things you probably didn't mean to say, do things you probably didn't do. You're children, right? And so now it seems like this country can't let a child or a young man or child be a child, but now you want to dig and get warrants and go back when they were 5 and 6 years old and 8, 9 years old, and then try to paint this picture of this young man was suicidal. But from my perspective, Dr. Kennedy, from doing civil rights work for over 27 years here in this city and dealing with policies and procedures all over the country, this is nothing new to me. This is nothing new to me. And the first question I have to ask is, first of all, what could have been done differently? If you say that someone is armed and dangerous and etc., I think that you will assess that situation. But the chief of police says, because they had got someone or a company to do kind of like this automation type video of what the police could have done, and there was a K9 unit there, I believe, that the dog, which is a police officer, right, per se, why was the dog not let loose to go and apprehend Dillon? Why did it take bullets to shoot down Brother Dillon? Why was it that when he was on the ground, that after he was shot, I believe twice, that he's on the ground defenseless on the ground, and the officer looking at the video again this morning says, put your hands up. Now you got 2 bullets in you, right? But now the officer is saying, put your hands up. And I believe if I remember correctly, Dr. Kennedy, I believe that his head was facing the officers after he hit the ground. I believe I'm correct. If I'm wrong, excuse me, I apologize. But while he was on the ground, the officer shot again. So I'm not understanding right now, where was the threat? One will say, well, listen, you know, hey, Reverend Harris, you're always trying to make something out of nothing. There you go again, trying to divide the community and make people think this and make people. I'm saying what it. So they said, well, you know, he had his hand behind his back, and the police thought it was a weapon, that it could have been a weapon.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify. So he was unarmed, correct?
He was unarmed.
So they say that he had his hand behind his back, and they thought he was reaching for a weapon.
That's what they say.
And so at what point, when he was on the ground, shot, was he still in their mind reaching for a weapon?
That's the part I don't understand. Because if he's standing, right, if he's standing and he has his hand behind his back, heck, how do I know? Maybe his back was itching or something. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, but just talk about this for a second. So, and then his hand is behind his back. They shoot twice. Boom, boom. He hits the ground. So he got 2 bullets in him, right? So he's on his back, okay? They're saying, put your hands up. Put your hand. So I'm trying to understand why was the 2 other shots shot at Brother Dillon on the ground defenseless?
Was he in a car?
He was in a truck.
Okay, so when he got out the truck, they didn't shoot him inside the truck, right? They shot him outside of the car?
Right.
So when they get him out the car, shouldn't they have known at that point that he didn't have a weapon?
I believe he walked away and he came back from the video, right?
But he was still outside of the truck.
Right. But there was a canine dog there.
But I'm just saying, when you pull over by the police
Right.
and they ask you to get out the car, usually, they pat you down. They ask if you have any weapons. It's like it's a procedure. So
Well, there
and
was
there's no need for him. There was basically no need for them to just shoot him based on regular, police procedure per se of how you're supposed to. Once you're out the car, they're going to handcuff you, put you somewhere. So even if he was, like they say, suicidal, he was still unarmed. So there was no reason to shoot him. And then the definition of self-defense is just to take the person down. So you didn't have to shoot him like, if you felt it absolutely necessary, you'd have to shoot him 4 times and kill him. You have the dog for a reason. Use other things. They have other methods of taking a person down, so that wasn't necessary.
And Reverend Harris, I mean, it seems like the police aren't utilizing other methods
No, they're
anymore.
not.
From what my understanding is that now the training is on a shoot to kill
Right.
training.
Well, when you go to the gun range, and if you look at the little, I don't know what you call it, dummy or whatever the little thing is they're shooting at the heart. They're not shooting at the leg, the arm. They're shooting bullseye right in the heart. To me, that's to kill you, all right? It's not to shoot to
Wound you,
disarm or
right.
wound you, anything like that. And so it's like, but to answer the sister question here, is that they were already trigger happy when they pulled him over, because it came over the radio that this person has a gun. Well, he didn't have a gun, right? And then secondly, that when the police got out the car, they was already drawn, right? And so the question becomes, in the training, when do we as a community says, you know what, you're not trained properly? Because there were other methods that you could have used that you didn't use as taxpayers that we paying for you to get your training. When you go to training, you didn't use it.
It's not just the training though, it's the background, the psych part of the police officer. If you come from a military background, like how do you view other cultures? I mean, all that needs to be taken into account. You shouldn't be working in a black community and you don't like black people. I mean, those are some of the issues that, we have. You need to be a people person. It's protect and serve. That's the whole part of being a police officer.
And for the people just tuning in, I do want to let you know that you are listening to 103.3 FM. This is KOFP, The Voice. This is Our Perspective with Reverend Floyd D. Harris, April Slocum, and myself, Lady J. We have our special guest in the studio today, Dr. Jean Kennedy, and we're discussing the Dylan Moore police officer killing, the Dylan Noble, police shooting. And so right now we're just getting into the discussion regarding the incident that actually occurred, as well as the training and the procedures of the police officers.
Right, correct. And so I want Dr. Kennedy to come in on this, because we talk a lot, and she has the way of looking at certain situations and giving us a different perspective of how things were done, the way things should have been done, in our opinion. We do know for a fact that there is a pattern here with our Fresno Police Department that they do not know how to assess people in the community that may have a mental illness. Because here's my argument. If the police now want to say that Brother Dylan was suicidal, right, then how come, that's what they're saying, trying to prove, then how come the police officers wasn't doing suicidal work? If that's what the chief is saying now. Why didn't the police officers approach this and say, well, it looked like he's suicidal, so let's do our suicidal training.
But that was
Thank
after
you.
the fact, though, because remember they went and got his Facebook records, and then they're deciding now based on facts that they're getting that this is how he was. They didn't know that at the time, nor did they care to know.
They're how to justify, right? That's
Yeah,
what they're
right.
coming
Trying
up
to
with.
justify.
You're right, and that's the process here in America, that we defame someone, their character, who they are, where they come from, we dig in their background, which has nothing to do with what happened at the situation when those bullets was pumped in that young man.
And just as a where she was saying like about the police and about Chief Dyer being a Christian, it's very interesting that the police as a whole, they consider themselves a brotherhood, right or wrong. They're going to defend each other to the death. They don't care if, you know, all the shootings that are happening, they're on the side of the police, and as soon as you say like check the police, everybody gets in an uproar. No, that's the police, you're against the police. All people aren't good. We're not saying all police are bad, but there are some bad police. And it needs to be a check that we're not getting shot and killed when we're getting pulled over when we're walking down the street. And if you can't recognize that as a leader, then you shouldn't be a leader. Because that's a part of leading. You have to have these checks and balances in place to protect the people. And you cannot be a Christian and not really have those checks and balances. You know, Christianity supersedes being a police officer, in my opinion. So if you are a police chief and you say that you're a Christian, then you need to act like one. And you need to, you know, put these checks and balances. You need to say right is right and wrong is wrong. And that's how you need to lead. You need to be the leader that you're supposed to be.
Dr. Kennedy, can you go ahead and jump in here real quick and help us out and swim and tread and whatever you want to do, skate, slide, or whatever?
So I've listened to the conversation, and I think it was good that you took time to share the perspective of whether it's the media telling the story, whether it's the family telling the story, whether it's the police department telling the story. There is a theory in psychology that if there's an incident and you ask people what they saw, you'll get 10 different answers if 10 people are standing there. So what you're hearing today on our show, another show is going to tell you another situation of how they believe this incident went down. And somebody else is going to say how the incidents went down. The attorney has the challenge of being able to weave all of this information together and then be able to choose a jury. This is going to be the challenge, to find a jury of this young man's pair. They've got to find a jury who believes that this young man is innocent, as much as the other side is going to look for a jury who believes this young man is guilty. The charge that is going out is going to be, my understanding is wrongful death. And so those cases will be drawn out for the longest. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, wrongful death has been one of the #1